What does it mean if you have Saturn in Libra in your natal birth chart? Well, that is what I'm going to be discussing on this video. I'm Ever Curry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so that you don't miss any of my future videos. Now, Saturn in astrology is the planet that governs everything, blocks and restrictions. It governs our challenges in life that we have to face and overcome in order for us to transcend into the most evolved version of who we signed up in this life to be. Saturn is a malefic energy that really requires you to pull up your bootstraps and get to work in that specific sign that Saturn rules in your natal birth chart. And also the house area or the terrain that Saturn governs in your life, whatever house placement that your Saturn falls in. So Saturn really is all about mastery, that you've put in all this hard work, that you are very disciplined in your hard work, and you have earned the rewards. Saturn is also about the consequences of your actions, and whatever you put in, that's how much you pay off or get or receive. So Saturn is an energy that asks you not to be lazy, but to do what you can to work hard to then earn rewards for that hard work. Now, Saturn in Libra, if you have this position, then you have Saturn in what is considered its exaltation, meaning that Saturn can really use its highest form of a tool to cut a tree down, a highest form of something that you can use to help you navigate in your life. So the very first aspect of the Saturn and Libra placement is that you want to establish balance and harmony within yourself and with the external reality. So making sure that things are peaceful within yourself and peaceful for everyone around you, that you're not overdoing things, that you're not hitting the bottom pole, but then missing the other one over to the other side, so to speak. You're really recognizing the need for internal peace as well as external peace. So it's going to be really, really important for you as someone who has your Saturn in Libra to get along with yourself, to have a loving, harmonious relationship with yourself first before others. So, it's really important that we treat others the same way as we would like ourselves to be treated, that we turn that energy of wanting harmony and peace towards ourself, so that it's not up in the air, rational, external, and then inside we have a raging fire burning, or we're angry, or we're hurt, or depressed, or full of anxiety, and just not feeling content, generally speaking. So, we want to feel content on an internal level. And there are certain relationships that are going to make you feel more content than others. And in this life, it's about choosing the relationships that do bring you that sense of peace and that sense of tranquility, and where there is true love in there and not doing things just to please the other person, doing things, trying to harmonize and make peace with this person who is not really showing themselves to be a representative of someone who is a person of the scales or who expresses him or herself with Libran qualities. Because the two partners have to be, willing to harmonize and willing to get along and relate and do that dance of interdependence. One person can't be all, selfish, domineering, a hoarder of some kind of issue or mainly focused on themselves, and then the other person is just trying to harmonize with that person. Well, that relationship is not going to hold a lot of water for a long time. So, um, you want to create equilibrium and balance in relationships, that you're doing the same amount of effort as the other person, that there is give and take. You give a piece of bread and you receive another piece of bread. You give this work on the house and then this other partner does this part of the work on getting the house, cleaned up or, renewed or whatever it is. So, you may feel insecure about the relationships that you enter into because you don't know if those relationships are going to provide peace for you. But there is a sensitivity here to when things are out of balance, and it may, knock you off kilter, knock you off guard when there is conflict and when there is chaos and turmoil and challenges and heartbreaks and whatever involves to be repercussions of wrongdoings that then turns into disharmony between you and other people. So, it's important to understand that you cannot have balance and harmony at all times, and that there is need sometimes for disharmony. There's a need for some lack of melody in a relationship, that sometimes people need to speak their truth and sometimes we need to have these tough conversations over these issues that may come up, that we have to talk about them, that we have to discuss them, that we have to negotiate and speak to what is, our opinion. And we're valuing ourselves, we're honoring our opinions and our own personal feelings to then enter into relationships fully being true to ourselves, and coming from a place of our heart, coming from a place of authenticity. So, having conversations, having compromises, and all of those types of things like that, with your opinion mattering. That's really, really important. So there may be this conflict between you versus people in society, your life, your world, your kit and caboodle, your can of potatoes, and everybody else's can of potatoes. Maybe it could be other people, family members, friends, colleagues, co-workers, whatever it may be, in society. So there may be this conflict between me and we, between what I want, what I desire for my life, and then the needs and wants and aspirations and ideas of others. So both need to be taken into equal consideration, not one over the other. Certainly not other people's opinions, society's opinions and thoughts, trumping over your opinions and your beliefs. So it's important to establish peace with yourself, that you love yourself, that you're content inside yourself. Because when you are content and you love yourself, you project that energy onto other people. How we treat ourselves is how we treat others. How we, like if we're being very judgmental and hard on ourselves and we see something playing out externally, well, we tend to judge that other person for doing that thing that we do not want ourselves to commit. Um, and so therefore we judge them for it. But when we love ourselves, when we're forgiving, when we're accepting, when we truly appreciate our gifts and our talents, and when we're kind to ourselves, we can then put that energy out to other people. We can be kind, we can be open-hearted, we can be loving and in a space of bliss and gratitude and acceptance of the other person's of who they are. So it's important that it's an inside job, that it comes from within and then without. So the external can be a reflection of the internal. So people with displacement can be also very fair-minded. They want to provide justice to others. They're very fair in terms of their relationships, allowing that person to talk and share their ideas, and then you're sharing your ideas. So they want what's best for the collective, what's for the highest good of all, what is in the best interest of the group, of what everyone wants, what would equally and fairly satisfy everyone. And there is a need with Libran energy for everyone to be included, for no one to be left out. So everyone can have an equal amount of food or an equal amount of land or blocks or whatever it may be. There's this need for fairness, and you can be very fair with your decisions and with your actions and what you decide to put out there. So this is a really good quality that you have. So maybe you're also on the hunt, also on the quest for beauty and various kinds of beauty. It can be romantic, or it can be artistic, or it can be the many different scopes of love languages that exist in the world. Speaking, doing an act of service for somebody. It can be talking on the phone with that person. It can be connecting with that person on a deep and loving way. In that kind of way for us to truly move into our Libran energy. So, you may do well in terms of things that are beautiful, things that involve beauty. And maybe you want to notice the beauty around you with sitting on a bicycle built for two, that the two people involved can have the same experience and share that experience, and connect in that way through that experience. So you may also be elegant and refined as well. There's a certain air about Libran energy that has a lot of class, that has a lot of social, you can check off down the list of the socially acceptable rules that Libras follow, that you must present yourself in this way, that you must, be this certain way. And there is a respect and appreciation for certain mannerisms which are ethical to put out there that you display. I mean, this is how it is right to act in society. And, you always seek the gestures of good faith. You always want to be on someone's good side or on someone's good graces, where fairness and doing things that are socially acceptable and, kindness and justice, all things that you, um, desire to experience and to have other people being are all things that you want to put yourself out into the world being. And I think the thing that justice will be served was probably invented from Saturn and Libra, because Saturn is, you could take blocks and just put a fork in it and put those blocks on the ground and make those foundations. Because Saturn is a realist. Saturn is about what is, truly governmentally right. It deals with the reality of the situation. So Saturn energy is very conservative, and that those qualities can pair really well with Libra energy because it deals with society, it deals with top-down structures, governments, institutions, corporations. All those things are related to Saturn. Um, so you can also be pretty dependable um, and loyal towards the people that you care about. If there's someone that you care about, you don't want to let them down. You want to be there and be on their side and, look after them and, take care of them. And, there's a need for this kind of connection to be in place where you're, dependent on them, they're dependent on you. So you honor commitments, you honor other people being loyal um and dependable, and deep down you really do want to be loyal to others, and so you honor promises. You're good at saying something and promising someone this thing and keeping your word at it, and honoring those commitments that you make to other people. Um, and so, loyalty is, really, really big thing. When you can be loyal, um, that's huge. And so you're also hard workers is another thing I should throw in here. And you're also a rule follower. You follow the society's rules and laws by the book. Maybe that could depend upon the other, you know, things happening in your chart. Like maybe you have Uranus doing something with Saturn, or you have a lot of Aquarian energy, or, Aries energy that may make you more rebellious and more original and not wanting to follow the rules. But Saturn and Libra in general is a rule follower. They honor universal laws. They go by the book, the way that things have always been done. They really have deep respect for the law and governments and people who make the rules. And they can also be good people in government, as as a judge or something like that, that really, allows you to use that labeling quality of justice and wanting the law to be set in stone in this way that, um, honoring and following the rules that are legal and doing what is legal is important for you. Um, and so you may also be traditional, more traditional in terms of the way that things have always been done, in terms of the rules that you're following, and practical as well. Another thing that's worth mentioning is that you can make a decision very, very well. And when you do, you have an amazing ability to detach yourself from your emotions and look to that eagle's perch to get a higher view, to get a higher perspective, and make choices that are rational, decisions, of getting some perspective of just observing your emotions, of observing the situation and the ideas of yourself and other people and all the information that you have received to then come to a consensus decision and really make a choice without allowing your emotions to cloud or dictate your actions. So that is another strength and another superpower that the Saturn and Libra person can lean into. You're also a trustworthy team player. So, you want to, you want peace. You want there to be justice and fairness and teamwork is very important for you and everyone getting along and everyone working together to reach or achieve a common goal. And you really don't want disharmony. You don't want to rock the boat. You want there to be peace and equality in the group. So, and you genuinely care about the other. You genuinely care about a team effort where everyone is getting along, there's not a whole lot of conflict, etc. Um, so you may have talents of networking and collaborating with other people in a given community because this is a very positive thing. Those kind of skills you really possess and that you can lean into. Where you're talking about solutions, you're finding solutions to problems collaboratively, you're sharing ideas and then bouncing ideas off of other people, and you're having those kind of conversations with people. So, you genuinely want to share an experience with other people. You don't want to drink wine alone or eat alone or do things on your own. You genuinely need somebody else in your life to bond with, to connect with, to harmonize with, because there's a deep need for Libra energy to have another person that is a mirror to who I am. There's a need for connection, for collaboration, for communion and a bond with another person with Libran energy. Because they live for a relationship with another. They can't do it on their own. And so, you're really here to have healthy relationships, relationships that are nourishing to your soul and nourishing to, who you really are, not relationships where the partner is out of balance and as I explained before, one person's taking a bunch of the loads of the housework and then the other person is not doing hardly anything. So, healthy relationships where there's equal amounts of give and take is, important. And, you know, relationships that are really worth living for. That's what comes to mind. So, you really have a talent for relationship. Um, and so, maybe it could be seeking to be that or trying to find the right relationship. So you're very good at doing relationships correctly. And you really want peace. And you really can work hard to achieve peace. And it may be difficult, it may be a struggle to achieve peace. And not everyone's going to be peaceful all the time. Not everyone's going to be sitting around the campfire and singing Kumbaya. And this is a very difficult lesson for you to understand, is that in order for true peace and harmony, the two people have to just be the right match for each other and bond, and that the relationship has a nice flow to it, that there is strong chemistry between you and another person, that the two people are honoring each other for who they are, and the relationship is unconditional, where one person is loving and accepting of the other person and vice versa for who they really are. No one's trying to be anything else besides themselves for another person, and that's a true relationship, a healthy relationship. So, finding a cause that you feel passionate about for there to be more equality and justice and fairness in the world is something, really important. Whatever it is, it can be salt on the sandy beaches, feeding enough people. It can be certain people who having more access to fresh fruits and vegetables. It can be, I don't know, whatever it is, whatever issue or cause you feel passionate about. And so being charitable is another thing. Um, being of service to others, giving back to, the world, giving back to society, making a difference in someone else's life, being helpful, being, a good Samaritan. Um, really making other people happy and making a difference in their lives and doing something to satisfy them and maybe to win them over at worst, but to gain more friends, to gain more positive acquaintances, um, to be in other people's good graces, and just for there to be more kindness in the world. There's a willingness, if you have this placement, to put kindness out into the world, because the kindness that you put out in the world will be coming back to you. And it's important to be kind as opposed to being nice. And there's a difference between those two terms. So you can be great diplomats, because that's a huge part of Libra energy, wanting to find a peaceful solution for everyone, wanting to find a fair or just solution for everybody, really. So diplomacy is a really huge thing. There's another strong ability with this placement is you're very good at making compromises. Um, win-win situations for both people involved. You're also very noble, very ethical. You have very strong principles and a knowledge base of what is right and wrong, and very strong beliefs towards justice and the law and all those kind of things like that. And your ethics are very, very high and up on the charts. Um, and so, another thing is, um, it's important to know which relationships are right for you and which ones are not right for you. And so another huge thing is when you can get caught in being passive and insecure about a relationship because you're afraid of what the results will be. You're afraid that there's not going to be this peace and harmony. There's not going to be this connected bond emotionally and intellectually between the two people involved. So there may be some challenges with the relationship. Maybe you find your true partner because you're learning to wait for the right partner, and it may come later in life where you have your official soulmate relationship later in life. That you enter into it fully being yourself, fully accepting yourself for who you are. Um, and yeah, so there's a passive quality where there's this fear, this hesitation around entering into a relationship. So it's important to go relationships confidently and knowing who you are and knowing what you want out of the relationship and knowing why you're in this relationship. Um, and being discerning about the types of relationships that you're in. So, careers, I've already mentioned being a judge or someone who plays a part in justice. But what about beauty? Maybe being someone who, a hairstylist or a painter or a musician or a composer or someone who plays in the orchestra, a singer, a songwriter, whatever involves um, the scope of beauty for you. So, it's important to be discerning about the types of relationships that you're in, where you're not putting all of your energy and all of your focus into a relationship and not getting anything back in return. Um, and the thing is to not, to be, have it without expectation, to go in with no expectation. But when you're putting in all this hard work and when you're giving and giving and not receiving anything back from the partner, whether it be intellectual energy, emotional energy, physical energy, that relationship is probably one that needs to be re released from your life. Um, and so Libran energy can be indecisive. It, can weigh out all the pros and cons and all the different opinions and all the different viewpoints. What does this person think? What do I think? And I don't know, what do you want? And you know, where there's this equation that you're trying to solve in your head where all these different opinions are trying to weigh them out to find what is the right decision. But with Saturn energy, it's very incisive, it's very decisive, black, white, yes, no. I'm going to do this. This is right. I'm not going to do this. This isn't right. So there's this ability that you can possess where you can become more decisive on what you want and what you need. Um, and so you're also good at working with older people since they provide a lot of wisdom, since they've been around the block more than once and they have a lot of knowledge and wisdom through their experiences to share. And so that can be a strong suit as well. And so it's important not to fall prey to codependency, where you're losing your identity, you're losing your sense of who you truly are apart from the person. It's not, getting enmeshed in the relationship and getting so caught up in the needs and wants of the other that you're losing your sense of self because both people have to be themselves. That it takes two to tango, but it takes one person being authentically himself, another person being authentically the other self, you know, himself, in order for there to be a relationship. It does involve the two to tango, but both of those two people need to be individuals. And so there is this fear and there is this desire for you not to be, that you don't want to be alone. Um, and so, um, moving on, um, there isn't a whole lot of illusions or idealizations with love and relationships. You can tend to see relationships for what they truly are, the issues that, the good things, the bad things, the challenges, the setbacks, the limitations. You see it for what it truly is. And that becomes something that you can possess as a strength, um, where you're not caught up in the illusions and the fantasy of this, I want this relationship to be one way, and I want it to be this, and I want to have this piece of bread, this castle, this mansion, this thing over here, this thing over there. You're really facing the reality of what the relationship is for what it is, not what you want it to be. So you can come to terms with that in positive ways. So maybe relating to others may be more challenging. Maybe it's hard to find the people that get you, or it may be more difficult to relate to others in general with this placement. And so it's important to remember that the same results that the same approach that you have, if you go relationships with the same approach, then you're going to probably end up with the same results. So if you don't like the results that you're getting, choose to go relationships from a different place and a different approach. Um, so that, you can sort of apply that to your own life. It's going to be really important for you to know your role in relationships. What is your role? What is your purpose? Who are you in a relationship? And who are you really? And who do you want to be as an individual? So there is a need for responsibility and accountability if you have this placement in a relationship, that both partners are both responsible for their side of the street and accountable for their actions and their um, emotions and all those kind of things like that. And so you may be more discerning and more particular about relationships. So you want the best of the best, the cream of the crop, the absolute. And the thing is, you can choose as an individual what kind of relationship that you want to have. That you get to decide who you want to harmonize with, who do you want to collaborate with and relate to. It's not like the person at Starbucks, or just someone that you happen to come across. It's actually the person that you are having a serious relationship with, or you may need to be discerning about that. Um, And so honesty, integrity, responsibility, and commitment in terms of relationships, also going back to loyalty, those become very strong qualities that you want to see in a relationship. Another key thing is it's really important not to bottle up your emotions, because you want the peace and harmony. You want to get along with somebody, and you are going to be so willing to do that you're putting your feelings aside and you're invalidating them just for peace and harmony to be the case. But that's fake peace. Real peace can happen when you approach conflict with a healthy way, and when you speak to what is on your mind and in your heart, and you allow the other to do the same, and then you come to a compromise, and then you come to a decision where you're talking these issues out, you're having a good line of communication, and then when you address the issues, when you solve the issues, then you get your true peace and harmony. Um, so when you don't speak to the issues at hand and you bottle them up and you go along with what the other person wants, say it's fine when it really doesn't feel fine, whatever it may be, maybe you just accept something or go along with something, but it's just not true for you. And you don't speak to those emotions, and they can come out of your system like Mount Vesuvius, and it can be very destructive and very negative, and where you miss the opportunity to address those your opinions and your feelings in a healthy and peaceful, loving way. Um, so it's going to be really, really important to understand that conflict is necessary at times, and there needs to be conflict. There needs to be truth in order to have true peace and harmony in your relationships. So that is all I have to say about Saturn in the sign of Libra. I really hope that you found value here, and if you did, please consider sharing this with somebody you think would benefit from this video, and I will see you on another video. Bye for now.